Hello folks, welcome back. This is continuation of our previous lecture, how to set up Kubernetes using Kubeadm. In previous lecture, I have explained the procedure, how it happens and what are the different Kubernetes installation methods are available for our production environment. If you haven't watched that video, I have kept it in the I button. Please go and watch that video and come back to continue with this session. Now let's go and set up our Kubernetes by using Kubeadm. So this is the Kubernetes documentation which I'm referring to set up Kubernetes. I'm going to use AWS instances to set up the Kubernetes. Even you can use your local systems, but it should match to the minimum requirement. In this case, I'm going to set up the CentOS 7 missions. And as I said, we are installing on AWS. So T2 medium is the master node. Why? Because we need two CPUs and worker node can be T2 micro. Even in your local systems, you should have this capacity for our master node. Next, we should open these ports in the network level. In AWS, we can open at the security group level. This is on master node and this is on worker node. First, let's create our EC2 instances. I have already logged into my AWS console, and if I go to EC2 and we have running instances, and these are existing instances. Anyway, I'm going to launch the new instance. As I said, we need to use CentOS. CentOS is not available under Quick Start. So let's go to Marketplace and search for CentOS. It is already popped out and search for it. I'm choosing CentOS 7. Select it. And let's scroll down a little bit to continue. Here we are choosing T2 medium because we need minimum 2 CPUs and 2 GB RAM. So T2 medium. And nothing to change over here as well. And a tag I'm going to give, okay, AWS master node I'm giving. And security group, we need to open specific ports. Rather than that one, I'm going to use a public security group where I have opened all ports. But in real world, we don't use this one. We should explicitly open the required ports. And yes, just go through with all the steps and launch it. And I'm going to use a key called Linux key, which is I have already created, and launch the instance. So my master node is getting ready. Meantime, I will launch my worker nodes as well. Even worker nodes also should be CentOS and CentOS 7. And I'm going to use two worker nodes in this case. Continue. And worker nodes can be T2 micro. And I'm going to specify 2 so that we can launch 2 instances. And nothing to change over here. Add tags, name. I'm going to give worker node 1. I will change it to 2 for the second node. And security group, I'm using the same public security group and launch it. And I'm using Linux key. Launch it. Okay, so total we have launched 3 systems. One is for master, another 2 are worker nodes. Okay, these are almost getting ready. Let me connect to my master node first. Session SSH IP address, and I'm loading my key pair. And for this, we need to use a user called CentOS. Okay, it is not EC2 user. Okay, I have logged into my master node. Let me increase font size. And if you see the which user you should use, if you go to connect SSH client, it clearly says that what is the username you should use. Okay, anyway, back to instances. Now I'm connecting to my worker node. This is worker node 1. I'm going to rename it as a worker node 2. So it would be easy for us to identify. I'm connecting to my worker node 1. Loading key pair. CentOS. Okay, it is still coming up. Meantime, I will try to connect my worker node 2 as well. Okay, I have connected to worker node 2, and let me check the worker node 1. Just press R to start the session. Alright, I have connected to node 1 as well. Let me change the tab so that it would be easy for us to understand. Master node, worker node 1, and worker node 2, right? Alright, so we have renamed it. We need to execute common commands on 3 nodes. For that, we can use the multi-execute. This is the option on our mobile extern. So if I execute any command on one console, it get executed on all the systems. But if you copy and paste, you need to copy it on all 3 terminals. Okay, now let's become a root. Why? Because we are doing installations, so we should execute this as a root user. Again, clear the screen. And this is the procedure we need to execute, right? So this we need to execute on master and worker nodes. I'm executing first command. So all 3 commands I'm just copying. Here also I need to copy, and here also I need to copy. So it is downloading the required packages. Now we need to install the Docker. Even let it complete over here. Yeah. Now if I give enter, it is going to install Docker. Alright, Docker installation is completed. Next thing, we need to start the Docker services. So let's execute these steps. Now I can check the Docker status. Sorry, service Docker status. Okay, it is still enabled. Let's start the Docker service Docker start. And if I check the status, yes, now it is running. Okay, next thing we need to disable AC Linux. Clear the screen, copy it, and copy it. Next, we need to disable firewall as well. I don't think so firewall is there on AWS. Okay, there is no firewall, so nothing to disable over here. Next thing, we need to disable swap space. Okay. So it's already disabled. And next, we need to update the systemctl to set up the Kubernetes networking. Give enter. Okay. Now we have enabled Kubernetes networking. Next thing, we need to set up Kubernetes. This is also we need to run on all the systems. Let's open this file and copy this content. That is what we are doing. And let's give enter. Now let's install Kubernetes. We are installing Kubernetes 1.15. On 3 systems we are installing. Alright, we have installed Kubernetes. Next thing, we should enable it. And also start. Okay, so we have started Kubernetes services as well. Okay, just it is copied only enable. Now we need to start the services. Just making sure that services are started. Now we should execute these commands only on master node. Exit from the multi mode, and this is the master worker node 1, worker node 2. Now all systems are at the same configuration. Rather than executing these commands independently on each system, we have another way, that is taking the AMI. What we can do, we can just create one system, execute all these commands, create an AMI, and launch 2 worker nodes by using that AMI. That is another option, so that whenever we need new worker node, we need not to execute all these commands again on the new worker node. Why? Because our AMI is already at this level. Okay, but anyway, we have already done this one. Now I am using Kubeadm to initialize my Kubernetes setup, and this is the network IP address I am using. This network IP address we are going to use in the Calico. That is the reason same thing I am using. So it should be only on master. We are initializing the cluster. Okay, sorry, we need to give the master server IP address over here. So here master server IP address I need to replace. If I go to my AWS console, my master server IP address is this one, right? But don't give the public IP because public IP keep on getting changed. So use the private IP address. So private IP address and followed by the our pod network. Alright, we have initialized our Kubernetes cluster, and you can see here to start using your cluster, you need to run the following as a regular user. We should not do this one as an admin user. For that purpose, we are going to create a new user. Let's go and create it. So here we are going to create a user called kubeadmin. I can copy all these instructions. Here go. Okay, so that this configuration file should be owned by Kubeadm user. Now let me switch as a Kubeadm user. su minus kubeadmin, and following command we need to execute it as a Kubeadm user. You can see here. So I have just switched as a kubeadmin. Now I am executing the network command. So it pull the YAML file and create the pod network. That's it. We have successfully set up our Kubernetes. At last, we need to execute this command to join our cluster. So you can see here we got a kubeadm command. This command we should execute on all our worker nodes. Okay, so now let's go back to our worker nodes and we should execute it. Okay, I have executed on worker node 1. Now if I go and execute the kubectl get nodes on master node, we can see, sorry, 2 times it got copied. You can see here 2 nodes are there. Why? Because we have added only one worker node at this moment and another one is master node. Okay, if I execute the same command in the other node as well, I mean to say on worker node, we could see total 3 nodes. Okay, so now again if I check, you can see 3 nodes. Among these, one is master node, 2 are worker nodes, and what is the version and when it has been added to the cluster. This is how we can set up. Now I can execute the kubectl get pods, okay, to get the pods, but there is no pods associated with this cluster. And also we can execute kubectl get pods -n kube system. Okay, so this will give the default pods which are required to run our cluster. If you know, there are master components and worker components, right, in Kubernetes. So those runs as a pod inside our Kubernetes cluster that we can see with this namespace. Anyway, this is how we can set up our Kubernetes cluster, and if I run this command on worker node, it doesn't work. Why? Because we have enabled kubectl only on master node. Okay, so this is how we can set up the Kubernetes cluster using the Kubeadm. If you are interested to see the other methods of Kubernetes setup on cloud, like on EKS, AKS, GKE, then please let me know in the comments so that I can prepare those videos as well. That's all for this lecture, and see you in the next lecture.